Explosive new charges over the execution of a man who at least half a dozen forensic experts now believe was innocent. These new charges.
Behind these walls in rural Arkansas, 7 men are preparing to die.
I don't get it. You know, it's like these people committed a crime and they knew what they were doing. I know you've been in Arkansas Supreme.
The debate over the death penalty has been around pretty much as long as the idea of capital punishment came into existence. However, capital punishment is an issue that really hasn't been solved. So we're here to ask, how cruel and unusual is capital punishment? And exactly how effective is capital punishment? And finally, how torn is our country about this issue?
In the 1972 Supreme Court case, Furman v. Virginia, a 5-4 decision ruled that capital punishment was cruel and unusual punishment since it was being sentenced in, quote, arbitrary and capricious ways, especially in regards to race. Citizens were up in arms, and for somewhat good reason. After the death penalty was taken off the table as a punishment, murder rates continued to steadily rise over the next 4 years, until the ruling was altered. In 1976, the Supreme Court said states could conduct executions again if they could find a fairer way of sentencing convicts. The following year, Bill Weissman, a Republican House member from Oklahoma, develops the lethal injection cocktail, and Oklahoma becomes the first state to legalize it. About 20 states then followed suit. For roughly the next 30 years, not much occurred, and states continued to administer the cocktail, as many states were calling it. However, another seemingly small Supreme Court ruling was about to start an international game of whack-a-mole. In 2008, the court ruled in Bays v. Reese, saying that successful administration of the anesthetic and first drug in the lethal injection cocktail is necessary to prevent the prisoner from suffering and to constitute the execution as not cruel and unusual. This ruling actually got abolitionists fired up. People like Maya Faub, a director at a company called Reprieve, have made it their life's goal to stop any and every country from selling this anesthetic to the United States. And, believe it or not, they've been extremely successful. While Maya hoped to cease the death penalty, in more ways than one, she's actually somewhat made it worse. With the supply of drugs getting lower and lower, more and more states are turning towards non-FDA approved or experimental drugs that are failing and causing prisoners to die slow and painful deaths. Additionally, some states have gone backwards. Utah has reinstated the firing squad since it was previously legalized back in the 1800s. With so much controversy, some argue any form of the death penalty is too gruesome, while some, like Utah's House of Representatives, Paul Ray, argues it's not straightforward enough. His argument is if people need to sugarcoat death with medication, or allowing one unknown member of the 5-person firing squad to have a blank bullet, then we should not be doing it. People need to face what they're doing straight on.
Currently, 30 states have legalized the death penalty. This number has varied over time, and each state has various forms of capital punishment. Overall, there are 5 different types of capital punishment legalized in the United States: lethal injection, the firing squad, electrocution, lethal gas, and hanging. Lethal gas and the electric chair were quickly dismissed after they were introduced in the 1920s, after realizing these forms were extremely cruel, with prisoners getting intense burns from the electric chair and suffering a long and painful death by choking on the gas. Although lethal gas and the electric chair are still legalized in some states, it's important to note that all states have their primary source of execution as lethal injection. This is because lethal injection is noted to be the most humane style for execution. Lethal injection consists of an injection of 3 ingredients: an anesthetic to put the person to sleep, pancuronium bromide, which paralyzes, and potassium chloride, which stops the heart and is the cause of death. The anesthetic is added to make the process humane, since the prisoner won't feel it. However, there have been problems lately, since the U.S. cannot obtain the anesthetic since foreign countries don't support the United States' use of anesthetic for executions. Another key element to analyze how cruel and unusual capital punishment is to analyze the families impacted.
In a study from the University of Minnesota, they found that just 2.5% of the co-victims which are families and friends of murder victims, reported achieving closure as a result of capital punishment, while 20.1% said the execution did not help them heal. One co-victim described it, "Healing is a process, not an event."
Next we asked, is the death penalty really effective if it's putting innocent people to death? Well, according to Supreme Court Justice Anton Scalia, claimed that felony convictions only have an error rate of 0.27%, or a success rate of 99.273%. On the other hand, a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences claimed that the number of innocent people convicted is much closer to 4.1%. Because we never know with a 100% guarantee who is innocent and who is guilty, it is impossible to get a statistic on how many people we have put to death. It didn't take much work, however, to find a list of prisoners executed whom many now believe to be innocent. For example, Cameron Todd Willingham was convicted of murdering his 3 children by arson, and he was executed in 1991. However, the Chicago Tribune posted an article in 2004, along with an investigative report in 2009 by The New Yorker, that found most of the evidence in Willingham's trial to be doubtful and misinterpreted.